Hello witches, welcome back to the channel. This is xoxo. So on a lighter note, I just want to talk about, well, first of all, I just want to share a story that just happened like literally a second ago before I started recording these videos. There was a fly buzzing around in here and it landed into the window, and I was like trying to shoo it away, doing my fingers like this, and y'all, that fly disappeared out from like right in front of my eyes when I was flicking my fingers. I think I sent it to another fucking dimension or something. Okay, I don't know where it went, but it is gone now. And I literally saw it disappear before my eyes. And that is the second time that something like that has happened to me. Because remember I told y'all the story before when I threw a lighter at the wall because I was angry because it wouldn't light. And I saw it hit the wall and then it just disappeared. And it was nowhere to be found. So I just wanted to share that little story briefly. I want to share some other things as well. The moths have continued to be swarming in my house and around my house. I've been seeing so many freaking moths. It is like, you know, if I was scared of moths, it would be a horror movie. But I know that the moths represent the ancestor spirits and the spirits of the dead. So I know that these spirits are around. So I've also been seeing a lot of black butterflies around. And I think that that is also, you know, the spirits of the dead and the ancestors coming around me. Okay. I just wanted to share that. You know, I've been continuing to see that basically. So I know that most of you all, what the hell is wrong with my voice? I know that most of you all are continuing to see these moths and these spirits around as well. I also did some video last night wearing ritual attire, and there was a bunch of orbs around me. And I posted that video on my Instagram story, on my Snapchat story, and on my Facebook story. Just sharing it. But there was a whole bunch of orbs around me when I was dressed up in my ritual regalia. And I also captured an orb coming across in a separate video, coming across the screen. And you can hear a cat meow right when that orb comes across the screen, and it ends right when the orb goes out of the screen. And there was no cats meowing during that video clip, and no cats around me during that clip, but I think that Vesta came to visit me for the Sabbath, and she was making her presence known in that short clip. I'll try to post that at the beginning of this video, actually. Now, that brings me into the topic that I really want to talk about in this video, which is familiars. I was messaging, after I posted that video of the orb and hearing the cat meow in it, I was talking with one of my friends, Lori, on Messenger, and we were talking about the orb, and she was saying she saw something inside of that, or inside of a different orb, I should say. In the other video I mentioned that I posted on the stories, that the one that had a bunch of orbs in it, she saw something inside of one of the orbs. And when I went back and looked after she said that, I did see, you know, there is something in the orb, but you can't tell what it is because the orb itself is white light, but inside of it there's like a darker mass with color, but you can't tell what it is because the orb is moving so fast, and every time I try to pause it and screenshot it, you know, it's like a line because the orb is moving so quickly that you can't even get a still of it as just an orb shape. But you can clearly see that there's something in it when you look at the video. Anyway, we were discussing that, and then we were discussing, you know, some other things. She said that her familiar had gone missing, and she prayed to Hecate, and immediately her familiar came back home. And her familiar had been missing for several days until she made that prayer, and then her familiar came right back home, and she showed me a picture, and it's this adorable little kitty. And she was asking me about, I made a post recently also on Facebook talking about these other dreams I've been having, that the spirits are going to be sending me a new familiar. I have not had a familiar since Vesta passed away. Rest in peace to her soul. I've not been able to bring myself to even want to go seeking a new familiar since she passed away. And oh, I'm going to start crying again. Oh gosh, let me get out of my feelings. I've not been able to bring myself to even want to get a new familiar since she passed away. But recently, like within the last month or so, I've been getting these dreams, recurring dreams of basically getting a kitten, and the spirits are giving me these dreams to let me know that they are bringing me a new familiar. They'll be delivering a new familiar into my life sometime soon. And I've literally have had at least 6 or 7 dreams of this event happening. And so Lori was asking me when we were discussing on messages, you know, has there been any signs or anything of that familiar, you know, coming into my life yet? And I was telling her, like, no, not yet. But I just know it's going to be soon. I don't have a kitten yet, but I know it's going to be soon. Excuse me. I know it's going to be soon delivered to me. And what else was it? She was telling me, hang on. She was telling me how her familiar came to her, he just ran and jumped in her car in the middle of, either in the middle of the road, she said, or in a parking lot, I think. I can't remember exactly what she said. And, you know, that reminded me of the way that my past familiars had come to me as well. My very first familiar, and that's really kind of what I wanted to talk about in this video, the way that familiars come to us. Because there's something very magical about it. When it's a true familiar versus just, you know, going and getting a pet or something from a shop or a shelter. The way that magical familiars come, you know, spiritual familiars, not just a pet, okay? And you just heard the wall pop, and that plays into this as well. I was telling her how my first familiars came to me. The very first one came to me in a parking lot. I was just grocery shopping, and she just came out of nowhere, and she was a cat. And she just came right up to our car and basically just came right up to me. And I took her home, and that was my first familiar that I named Ishtar. And over the years, I kept keeping her lineage of babies after babies as my familiars until I ended up moving to this other apartment place, and there was no pets allowed. So I had to end up taking her to a shelter, and I was so freaking devastated and heartbroken. At that time, I had one of Ishtar's descendants named Circe as my familiar, and I miss that cat so much, but I had to take her to the shelter, unfortunately. Then when we moved from there again, we moved finally to this place where I'm at now, and, you know, I was like, I want a new familiar. I have not had one, and I miss having one, and I want one. So I actually cast a spell this time to put a call out to summon a familiar to me. And what happened is, I did that spell during a lunar eclipse. And I did that spell like at the beginning of the eclipse. Well, like probably like an hour or so later after casting the spell. One of my friends and I decided to meet up and hang out at his house and, you know, do some ritual and stuff like that during the eclipse. So that night I went out walking and I walked to his house. And like about halfway or a little over halfway to his house, it started storming and I was like, great, but oh well, but you know, whatever. But it was still during the eclipse. It started storming and I was happening to be walking by a Catholic church, by the front of it, and the front doors and all that. And I just hear this kitten meow. And I'm like, you know, because I had just done that ritual. So I kind of stopped and just looked, and up at the porch of the Catholic church, I just see this little black kitten come running towards me, and she literally just jumped literally up my leg into my arms. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is my familiar. And I named her Lilith, and I had her for a few years. And then I started keeping her descendants as well. And that led all the way up, eventually to having Vesta. So Vesta was a direct descendant of Lilith that I had obtained in that way, through that ritual. So I have not had good luck with familiars. I'll just say it like that. It's like I have one and something inevitably ends up happening that I lose it before it's time. And I don't know why that is, or if it even is anything, but I don't have good luck with familiars. So I'm kind of weary to get one again because I don't want to go through the whole process of getting attached to her, because I know it's going to be a girl cat, and you know, getting all attached for a handful of years and then something happens and I either can't keep her or I lose her. I really don't want to go through that again. I've gone through it enough times. I've always lost my cats, but Vesta was the first that actually died. So I'm kind of worried about it, but at the same time, you know, I feel like the spirits are telling me and encouraging me and basically telling me that they're going to be sending me a new familiar sometime soon. So I know that it will be in some kind of magical way like that. And that's what I really wanted to make this video about. To just share my stories on, you know, magical familiars come to you in the most magical, coincidental, synchronistic ways. It's not necessarily, you know, something that you just go and pick up from a shelter or a pet store, okay? It's something that comes to you, you know, almost out from nature, it seems like. And in magical, synchronistic ways. You know, they'll just run up to you and just, you will just know this is your familiar. And I know I'm not the only one that experiences it like that. Because once again, as I was messaging with Lori last night, she was saying that's how her familiar came to her. So I know that, you know, this is the way. And also rescues as well. I feel like animals that we rescue also can have that type of magical bond that really makes it a familiar spirit. Also, too, going years back, you know, when I had my first familiar, Ishtar, and that's another thing, I tend to always name my familiars after goddesses as well, just as a side note. But when I had my first familiar in that house, I actually, one time, I went outside one day and I could hear a kitten, you know, meowing somewhere from our porch, and we had an old chair there, and I investigated, and sure enough, you know, under that chair, in like a nest of dead leaves, there was this little white kitten, and he was so dirty and gray, and he looked so sickly, and he was just one single kitten just there, abandoned, alone. And I took that kitten inside, and I basically, you know, I was much younger at this time, so I basically took that kitten inside and basically forced it on my mom to mend it back to health, because she's very powerful at healing magic. And she did. And she ended up keeping that kitten. And okay, this kind of is a crossover to a story I recently told y'all as well with, you know, I think I named the video Paranormal Experience Stories, where I was telling y'all about my mom's cat that passed away. Her familiars have always tended to be a white cat, a white male cat. And, you know, I told y'all that story where one of her cats had gone missing from the house. I did not know, I was not aware of it, but I had that psychic dream where this cat had wings and flew up to me and basically like nuzzled my legs in a loving way, and then, you know, left and flew off away into the sky. And I told my mom about that dream when I woke up from it, and that's when she told me that her cat was missing. And we ended up finding her cat's remains that day as well, out in the backfield where I had dreamed that I saw that cat. So after that event happened, that is a little bit later is when I found this other white kitten on our porch. Just one single white kitten. And I took it to my mom, and I was like, you know, you need to heal him, because I am not particularly good at healing magic at that stage in my magical development. I was much more better at destructive magic. So I took the kitten to her, and I was like, you know, heal him and take care of him, and I want to keep him. But lo and behold, as you know, the time went on, she ended up just keeping that cat, and it became her familiar, and she named him Merlin. And as he grew older, he had one green eye and one blue eye. And it's so magical. She still has that cat to this day. So she has very good luck with her familiars, having them for years. I mean, I don't know what it is. I have had my familiars stolen from me. I've had to take them to shelters because of stupid policies with different housing and stuff. Oh, just so many different things. And I don't know. I just have really bad luck with familiars, I guess. But, okay. Another thing as well that I just want to share in this. Once again, messaging last night with Lori, and we were talking about this whole thing, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should just do a video about this, because I think it's an interesting thing to share and discuss the magical ways that familiars come to us. And whenever I was writing that, I heard two pops on, or two knocking sounds actually, on the ceiling and then the wall here in my room. And that's why I said when the wall popped on this video, that ties into this as well. So I think Hecate wanted me to make this video and share it. And at the same time that I was writing Lori that I heard the knocking sounds, she was writing me that she had just had a vision of seeing me going to the cemetery and finding my new familiar, you know, in the form of a female cat, which this was not, I did not say to Lori anything about that it would be a female cat. I also didn't even mention that on my Facebook post, that it would be a female cat. But I just know, through my experience, my familiars have always been a female cat. But that's what she saw in her vision, and me finding it at the cemetery. And this is also something I did not mention to her, which I told her in the messages later as well. I have been feeling a call recently within the last week or so to go to the cemetery and go on a trip there and just visit. And I've been feeling like, you know, there's something for me there. I need to go to the cemetery to pick something up. And I did feel that it was connected to getting this new familiar. So her vision confirmed that as well. And it was after she told me the vision that I told her, you know, what I had been feeling. So it was just very interesting. And I just really wanted to get that in a video and share that with you all. You know, there's a difference between a regular pet and a familiar. Okay, I strongly believe that. You may not agree, you may disagree, but I think and I feel strongly that familiars come to us in a magical way, under magical circumstances. And they are gifts from nature or from the spirits, from the spirit world. Okay? And I very, very strongly feel and believe that. And that's basically, you know, that's the point of this video. I just wanted to share that. Now, I might as well include this in this video because since the popping happened in it, two people asked, because I'm getting ready to do a Q&A, and I had asked people to leave comments. In the last couple videos that I've made, I've asked for people to leave comments down below with questions for my Q&A. Two people left comments asking me about, you know, to give more detail about the popping sounds on the walls and the knocking on the walls and on different objects and things like that around you. And I feel like I have already covered this before enough, but I'll reiterate it. That is spirit communication. It is called rappings. You can look this up, look up physical mediumship and look up physical phenomenon in mediumship. And there's, you know, there's different things that spirits do in an effort to communicate. Not everyone has the ability to be a mental medium where we just have conversations in our minds telepathically. I have that ability, but not everyone has that ability. Not everyone can communicate with spirits through clairaudience or clairvoyance. So for people who are like that, and the wall just popped back there too. I don't know if y'all heard that. That was very faint. But for people who don't have those type of psychic abilities strongly developed or at all, spirits will communicate through physical phenomenon. And you have to be able to interpret it more in a way as like omens or signs. For example, with the knocking and the popping sounds that happens, that always usually happens as a way, I feel like it's Hecate basically emphasizing whatever I'm saying or whatever I'm thinking about at the time. Like, for example, I'll be having a mental conversation with Hecate, with mental mediumship, with telepathy, and she'll say something to me, and it's like a really deep, profound truth or answer to something, and then right after she says that, the wall will pop really loud. And that's just her basically, you know, confirming and reaffirming and emphasizing that that is a very important message. Okay? Another example. I'll be having conversations with someone. Like I said last night when I was messaging with Lori, we were talking about something and I suddenly came to the realization I should do a video on this topic. And right after I wrote that message to her, the wall knocked really hard 2 times. Okay? And I feel like that was actually emphasizing 2 things. I feel like it was one knock emphasizing my realization that I should do a video on familiars, and another knock emphasizing that Lori had just had a vision in that moment as well. So you have to be able to interpret it when it happens. It's almost like sign language in a way. The spirits use these physical phenomenon to get a message across. Do you understand what I mean? It's not sign language like spelling out words and letters, but it's sign language like omens, interpreting the omens of what it means, okay? And that's part of also what it means to be an oracle. I have to be able to interpret all of these different signs and omens. The knocking is, you know, one thing, but there are a lot of different omens and synchronicities and things that I am witness to and perceive all the time. And I have to be able to interpret, you know, what that means in relation to, you know, my position as an oracle for Hecate. So that's what it is. When you hear the knocking and the popping sounds, you know, pay close attention. What thoughts were going through your mind? What were you having a mental conversation with the spirit at that time? Did you suddenly get an insight right before the knocks and the pops happened? Just in meditation or in your own introspection, in your own deep thought, were you thinking of something, you know, and something clicked for you, and then you heard the knocking? You know, just think about that. Were you having a conversation with someone? Were you messaging someone about something, and then you heard the knocking? Pay attention to all of that and what happened around the time when the knocking occurred, because that is how the spirits, you know, affirm something or emphasize it. That it's not just your own thoughts, or it's not just a conversation that you're having with someone else, that the spirits are influencing that event, and it's a message from them as well. Or at least they're confirming it. Okay? So that's what it is. That's what it's all about. Definitely. So hopefully that answers your questions as well. And once again, if you look through my past videos, you know, where the knocking happens in my videos, it's usually only in the videos when I'm talking about Hecate in some way. Or even bringing her up in passing, like I did with this video where I was saying I think Hecate knocked the wall to emphasize the messages that me and Lori were sharing last night. And Hecate knocked the wall in this video before I even brought that up. So I feel like, you know, in my videos, you will see that the knocking happens when Hecate's influence and messages in the video in some way. Okay? And in all of my other videos, there's no knocking. So, you know, that's just the evidence that that's what this knocking business, these wrappings, physical phenomenon is all about. Okay? So I hope that also answers your questions for the two people who asked that. And for anyone else who may have been wondering about it, pay attention to those knockings because they're very important, okay? And pay attention if you're seeing the moths and black butterflies and different things like that, because those are also spirits giving you a physical manifestation or a physical sign that they are around and possibly influencing your thoughts, your insights, and the different things going on in your life. And even conversations that you're having with other people could have spiritual messages in it for you. So pay very close attention to that as well. So I just wanted to answer that question in this video because I feel like since the knock happened in this, it goes together. So that's going to be that. Once again, if you do have any questions for my upcoming Q&A, leave that in the comments below because I really want to have a good amount of questions to cover, you know, for doing a Q&A. If I don't get enough questions, I'm probably not going to do it. So please ask away. And if you have any suggestions for topics for me to cover for a whole video, also leave that in the comments below too. And I will try to get to that as soon as possible. And I look forward to it as well. Excuse me. So thank you for watching. I hope that you got something from this video. I hope that you've been having a magical experience through this Sabbath. Because the Sabbath energy is not just on Halloween, you know, the 31st. It goes through all the way to November 3rd. Because you have All Hallows Eve. You have All Saints Day, All Souls Day on November 1st and 2nd. And I feel like the energy just continues over like those daily periods. And I feel like it will continue through the rest of this year as well. The whole dark half of the year, the veil is thin. I don't care what anyone says. And, you know, the spirits are very strongly able to be around us during this whole dark half of the year. So pay attention. Okay? And I hope that you're getting those great connections and paying attention to them. That's going to be all for this video. Let me know if you have any questions pertaining to these topics that I covered in the video, and leave that below as well. If you would like to get in contact with me for a tarot reading, for custom spell work, for any kind of handmade magical item or jewelry, or to join my Facebook teaching group, which is paid membership, contact me through the methods in the description box below, through Facebook, email, or Instagram, and we can discuss all of that. So, that's it. Hail to the witches, hail Hecate, and blessed be.